Good evening and welcome to the programme. Thousands of teachers were on strike across the region today in a dispute over pay and conditions. More than 750 of our schools were affected. Around 500 were closed completely, while 250 were open to some classes. But the figures could be higher, as some councils didn't keep a tally of how many schools were affected by strike action. Holly Lewis reports.
Out of the classroom and onto the streets of Birmingham, almost 2,000 teachers marched through the city centre today, and their message was clear. It meant a day off for thousands of children and a childcare challenge for working parents. At Hagley Primary School, 7 out of 21 classes were open.
It's something that they have to do, and understandably, but it just puts so much disruption on everybody else.
Not a big fan of strikes. I don't think it's the way to settle any resolution, really, and it's a real inconvenience.
I'm not in approval, especially as I'm a grandmother and I have to look after a little one. You know, if they go on strike, my daughter's got to go to work.
Some children spent their day off marching with their teacher parents, protesting against changes to pensions, increased workloads and government plans to bring in performance-related pay.
Teachers have had enough and are fed up with the government just not listening.
It's not just about pay, it's not just about pensions. It's basically about all the changes that Gove is trying to make to education.
The teachers say this protest is to try and make the government sit up and listen, to try and force Michael Gove back to the negotiating table. But at the Tory party conference today, the Education Secretary remained unmoved.
The reason that they've gone out on strike, in a new example of twisted militant logic, is that they want to stop good teachers being paid more money.
We've always had performance-related pay. We've had it since before 2006. No one objects to performance-related pay. We just feel that the way the government's bringing it in is very unfair.
The march ended with a rally at the ICC, where union leaders left the audience in no doubt that this could be just the beginning of a long campaign of action against the coalition and its education policy. Holly Lewis, BBC Midlands Today, Birmingham.
Well, I'm joined now by Chris Keats, the General Secretary of the NASUWT, one of the unions which took strike action today. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Now, we heard in Holly Lewis's report there, the Education Secretary has accused you of using twisted militant logic, standing in the way of progress and wanting to stop good teachers being paid more money. What do you say to him?
Well, quite frankly, it's nonsense. Of course, we don't want to stop good teachers being paid more money. In fact, teachers have had performance-related pay now since 2002. What we want to stop is the system that's been introduced by the Secretary of State, which basically means that however hard a teacher works, however well they perform, they can have no guarantee of any pay progression. And teachers don't think that's fair or reasonable. They think there needs to be clear expectations on what they need to do to progress up the pay scales.
But is it the system that you have a problem with, or the Education Secretary himself? Because by the tone of the protest that we saw, it seemed to be very much attacked towards him.
Well, the policies are the concern, of course they are, but of course the Secretary of State is going to be the focus of teachers' concern and anger, simply because he's the one who's promoting the policies. But basically, it's the systems he's trying to introduce, it's the relentless attacks he's made for 3 years on teachers, on their qualifications, on their pay, on their pensions and on their working conditions.
Now, we've been asking our viewers for their thoughts on the strike action today. Some have supported your action, but many actually are incredibly frustrated. Here's a flavour. Julie Rathbone says that she's going to fine her daughter's school £60 for teachers' unauthorised absence, and she said that would be the same if roles were reversed and her daughter had unauthorised absence. The point she's making is the inconvenience of this strike action. Do you understand that?
We obviously understand it, and obviously we regret any disruption that's being caused to parents and to families. We wouldn't want to do that, and the only thing we've asked the Secretary of State to do is to meet with us and to discuss the concerns of teachers seriously. I don't think that's an unreasonable demand, and I don't think it's unreasonable that in the face of the Secretary of State refusing to do that, after 3 years, teachers are now finally to show their anger and frustration having to take strike action. This hasn't been something we've done within months of this government coming to office.
But if he doesn't agree to meet with you, will you strike again?
Well, we obviously have got to evaluate. We've obviously got to consider what our members' views are. Our members feel extremely strongly about this. But my view would be that really we need parents not to direct their anger at teachers, but actually to direct their anger at the Secretary of State and ask him to get round a table and avoid the need for any further disruption of children's education.
Chris Keats, thank you. Coming up later in the programme,